the idea, I think Mary and I talk a lot about stigma that comes with being overweight and the fat shaming that occurs from the public and health professionals, and the fact that there's, look, I could bang on about it for hours between, just navigating, I think, the world with diet culture, which is, you must be thin at all costs. And if you're not thin, you're not worthy, versus, well, there's nothing you can do about it. You're overweight. You just have to learn to live with it and accept your body as it is. And there's actually a middle path, which you've just described beautifully. And the idea that you have lost, how much have you lost altogether?
So at my heaviest, I was 137 kgs. The exercise prior to low carb took me to 132. I started low carb and I went from 132 to 82 in the space of about 15 months. From there to today, I'm currently 87, but about 3 kilos of that is due to a change of scales. My old scales, they broke and they told me I was whatever I was. And so I went out and bought a new set and weighed myself that same day, and they were telling me I'm 3 kgs heavier than what I was. So the numbers I'm giving are just what I saw on the scales at that time. So I've regained all of 2 kilograms out of 50 plus. I don't know that I'd call that a failure. Some people would say, oh, you've put weight back on, but really only 2 kilos out of this much?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's, again, the scale numbers, it's a guide. Like we like to say they're a tool. The scales are actually reasonably rudimentary. Like they don't tell you the whole picture. They're a guide, a tool, but they're not the only thing. I think the thing that you're describing is that, that reduction in hunger, and I'm imagining that you reduce your reduction in pain.
The pain was one of the first things to go.
Yeah.
It was a couple of years after I'd lost the weight. I had the idea to go to my doctor and ask him for a copy of my medical history to see if I could, understand for myself just how bad things were. I knew I was obviously horrendously overweight, but were there any markers and blood testing and all that sort of thing in my history that I could use as additional points of reference to indicate, where I was and where I am now. And the history is actually not as complete as I would like. A lot of the earlier records were lost during the Christchurch earthquakes. Not everything was yet being kept electronically, and I was in Christchurch for the earthquakes. So a lot of the history prior to that isn't so much there, unfortunately. But there's enough for me to connect a few dots and make a few interesting observations. The big one for me was not so much the blood pressure, not so much the blood sugar, not so much the lipids, the triglycerides, the HDL, cholesterol. None of those things were really major causes for concern. They would only ever be slightly out of whack at most. The big thing for me was the C-reactive protein, the inflammation. Depending on the scale that you use, any number above a really low number is cause for concern. The highest CRP that I had taken when I was still really big was something like 170.
Right. Yes. Wow.
Which is not at all good. The first time I had it tested after low carb, it was 2.
Yeah.
And it's been 1, 2 ever since. And the pain in the chest, surely that's what it is. I was prescribed ibuprofen.
Yep.
Anti-inflam. And the ibuprofen worked great for treating the symptom of the pain, if not necessarily the cause. Because as soon as I'd run out of ibuprofen, the pain just comes straight back. And okay, well, this is treating the symptom. This is not treating the cause.
Absolutely.
But low carb, it would seem, has absolutely dealt to that. So yeah, pain-free now for quite a long time.